Let me confess at the very beginning of the video that I am an impulsive buyer and I do get into this urge for mindless shopping at times. And that is when I felt a necessity to understand why this is happening, why I do what I do, and what is the psychology behind the mindless shopping that we get into, and how can we exactly come out of this trap that we have formed for ourselves, which makes us feel guilty at the end of the day that I spent money for no reason, and I really took a very impulsive decision when I had to purchase a particular thing. So that is when I just sat for a content writing on this topic, and I realized so many things when I was able to collate so many thoughts at one place, and I had a clarity in my mind that this particular, you could say, habit of getting into mindless shopping is something that needs to be addressed, and we need to acknowledge that something like this should be taken seriously, and just so that we don't remain in that kind of guilt. So yeah, I completed the content writing, and at the end of it, I just sincerely promised myself that I am going to follow these steps myself. And it just reminds me of the days in the past, like when I just passed my college education. I completed my graduation and I got my very first job of my life. And when I got my first salary of my life, I was so excited. Needless to say, it was something, like I felt proud of myself. And the only thought that really came to my mind, the first thought that came to my mind when I saw my paycheck, the first salary, was, when will I go for shopping? That was the only thought that I was having in my mind. And no thoughts of savings or budgeting ever crossed my mind during those days, because I am a person who comes from a very well to do family, and the salary that I used to get was just mine. I had no such obligation to financially contribute towards the family. So yeah, I had the liberty to actually manage my finances at that time. But yeah, I had this spending habit, like shopping. Once I got the salary, I used to go for shopping and all that. And my father, who is very sincere and believes in simple way of living, he very silently observed my spending habits and my spending pattern rather. And since he was never a person who would just impose his thoughts on his kids, and he always guided us very in a very gentle way and in a very positive yet assertive way. He just told one sentence one morning when we were having tea. He just said, don't you feel that at times the shopping is like chasing a mad horse? He just uttered this sentence, and that was more than enough for me to actually question myself that, okay, I think it's time for me to have a check on my spending patterns. Because end of the day, the more we save, we feel better, and the more we get into this impulsive buying and this mindless shopping, the more we feel guilty about it. So yes, I reflected back on my spending patterns, and of course, there was a shift in my, the way I started managing my finances back then. But it was not like overnight. I just felt that awakening, and magically I changed myself. And alas, even now I struggle with how better I can, control myself, not to go into such mindless shopping. So yeah, I would like to emphasize on the point that it's not going to happen magically overnight. Nothing is going to change. It will happen with constant practice and the kind of self discipline that we are going to bring about in our lives. So if you are a person who is struggling, who is just like me, who is struggling with this particular thing that I should not get into the mindless shopping or the impulsive buying, then you have arrived at the right place today. Because You're here to consume the content uh, of the day, and that is, exploring the ways in which we can actually control the urge for such mindless shopping. So, I hope it is going to be really useful for you. So, if you're interested in such kind of content, then please stay back till the end of the video. And yes, I am Vaishnavi, and my channel is all about homemaking motivation. And apart from showing how I clean and organize my home, I also love to talk about the mental health of us homemakers. And as I always emphasize on the point that I am no life coach, and yes, of course, I'm not an expert to be talking on various topics, but it is just that I would love to share my experiences, all the experiences that I have gone through in my life. I would like to kind of document it at one place so that it can be helpful for somebody who is just like me, or maybe who is dealing with the kind of problems that I'm dealing with. So, yes, that's the only intention and the criteria of my channel. So, if you're interested in such kind of content, then please be a part of this beautiful community of homemakers. And if you're already a part of this community, then welcome back to the channel. And so, without any further ado, let's start today's video. So before we get into the main point of this video, that is how do we control the urge of impulsive buying or mindless shopping, it is very necessary that we firstly understand the psychology behind this kind of mindless shopping. What is it that we get out of such kind of shopping? We need to first know that, analyze what is the psychology behind it, and it is only then we will be able to have the clarity in our thoughts. So, according to the various researches that have been carried on regarding this topic, it is found that, and we can conveniently come to a conclusion that such kind of shopping, it primarily gives us a psychological satisfaction by triggering the brain's reward system, which releases something called dopamine, which is responsible for giving us a kind of pleasure. So basically, we get a feeling of, you could say, a novelty, a feeling of ownership, and it's like, you are getting something new and that excites you. So this is a psychology that goes um, behind all this kind of shopping, as I said, be it mindless or the normal shopping that we carry on. So this is the kind of trigger that we are looking for when we go for shopping. Now we need to understand that, do we have alternatives for this kind of pleasure, or the kind of the dopamine, the happy hormone that gets released? Do we have an alternative other than shopping that we can get this kind of dopamine in our lives? We need to understand that. We need to explore the alternatives. So in my view, there are a lot of alternatives which really gives us this kind of pleasure and excitement. To name a few, it could be gardening, it could be cooking, it could be reading a lovely book, spending time with kids, doing something that my passion is involved in, like my pursuing my hobbies, or for that matter, watching a wonderful movie. All these activities also produce the happy hormone called the dopamine, and it is important for us to understand the alternatives and understand psychology behind shopping, because we then acknowledge that yes, there are alternatives. It's not that only shopping gives me the kind of happiness, or it's not that only this kind of shopping gives me the dopamine that I'm looking for. So once we realize that there are alternatives, then it becomes easy for us to understand and explore the alternatives. So we have done a great job. We first understood the psychology behind mindless shopping, and now we are looking for the alternatives of, you know, the pleasure that we get out of shopping. I'm sure you're understanding where I'm trying to take you all towards through these talks. It is simple, and that is, we need to shift our focus. We need to understand that It's not just shopping that is giving me this kind of you could call a, a, a feeling of getting something new, or an excitement of possessing something wonderful that I saw somewhere and that is now mine. No, it is not just because of shopping that we get all such feelings. It can be, as I said, by reading a new book, by watching a wonderful movie. So there are alternatives. So once we realize that there is this kind of psychology involved and there are alternatives, then believe me, it becomes easy for us to actually go about and explore the steps in which we can control our urges for this kind of impulsive buying, or as I always term it, the mindless shopping. So now let's get into the main core point of this topic today, and that is the various steps that we can take up to control our urge for mindless shopping. Let's start it step by step. This point, according to me, is very vital, very important for us to understand. And once we kind of gain a mastery on such kind of attitude in our lives, believe me, we will never get into the trap of impulsive buying. Now, to make this particular point a little more easier to understand, let me present a scenario. You may be scrolling, through your social media on your mobile, and you just come across one particular product which you feel is very beautiful, and you just check the price, everything, and then you feel like, okay, you are just about to get into the zone of impulsiveness of buying that particular product. Whether you require or not is secondary at that time, because you're in that kind of impulsiveness that yes, I need to own this. At that time, if you apply this step, you will be a winner. And when I say delaying the gratification, it only means that when you get into that kind of impulsiveness, just tell yourself that let me wait for another 24 hours. 24 hours is a minimum period of time. It could be 2 days, it could be a week, whatever. But just buy that kind of time for yourself whenever you find yourself in that kind of impulsiveness. By doing so, the advantage is that you will be able to think about it, and you will have a clarity in your thoughts in terms of, do I really need this product? You can just think about it, the pros and cons. Am I really in that kind of necessity to buy this product? Uh, well, whether it's affordable or not, that is again secondary. Because if it is affordable, then we don't give it too much thought, and we just get into that impulsiveness, of course, which is very natural, very obvious. But there are also at times when some people may not be able to actually afford that particular thing, but they're so much, they're driven by the impulsiveness that they're ready to even swipe their credit card, which in my opinion is not a very good idea. Because when you know that at that particular time you're not able to afford it, then it doesn't make any sense that you actually go in for a credit card to only to own that particular product, and that too out of impulsiveness. So when you apply this step, that is delaying gratification, what you do is you wait for 24 hours. You just think about it. You ask yourself, genuinely, you ask yourself a question, that do I really need it? Is it something that is a necessity for me at this particular moment? So once you think about it, and once you are being honest to yourself that whether I want it or not, then it becomes very clear for you to take a perfect decision. Now, there can be two scenarios for this. One is you may think that no, it is really necessary and I have to buy it. It is something that will give me, great amount of utility. In that case, you'll be guilt free when you go for buying, because you know that you waited for 24 hours and you know it is not an impulsive buying. So, it's a wise decision wherein you have taken that kind of time to understand if you really need it or not. And the second scenario is wherein you really realize that no, 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 I was about to go for an impulsive buying and I stopped myself from doing so. Just imagine. You will not get into the guilt of mindless shopping. So yes, it is very important that you apply this particular kind of mental exercise whenever you get into that zone of impulsiveness where you are compelled from within that I have to buy, I have to just take this item, it looks so pretty, it will look so good on me. Whatever is going on in your mind, you have to just, you know, take yourself out of that impulsiveness and literally give yourself 24 hours of time to understand if you really need this or not. We are always influenced by the ads everywhere, and of course the main purpose of ads is, you know, to influence the buyers, the consumers. And according to me, most of the times it is, you know, the social media. You know, you're just opening your mobile for maybe checking something, or maybe just watching a video randomly, you're just scrolling, but then, you know, somehow you end up seeing a product in one of your favorite websites, a shopping website, and you check the price and all, and you really feel it is affordable. You feel that, yeah, I can go for it. And you know, it all starts from there. Basically, it starts with ads, or it can also be like, you know, a friend of yours has bought something which looks nice on her, and then you feel that, oh, even I want to own it. Or maybe something to beautify your house. You feel that already there are so many things, but you know, sometimes most of the ladies, we literally make our homes like museum. You know, we bring things that are not necessary, but just that they're looking pretty, sometimes we end up buying that. That is impulsive buying, right? So it all starts with all various sources, like as I said, ads on the social media, or when you talk to your friends, or when you see something in their house, or whatever may be the reason. Now, the second step that I'm going to suggest is, you know, a very simple exercise that you need to do whenever you come across such situation that you're seeing an ad and you're really attracted, and you feel the price is affordable, you feel you know that you have to own it, you know, that urge, right? That urge at that moment, oh, this color is so beautiful, oh, this pattern is so beautiful. So whenever you get into such kind of impulsiveness, whenever you get into that kind of zone rather, it's a very simple exercise. All you need to do is keep your phone aside and just take a walk to your closet. And if you're watching something like, you know, a beautiful dress that you want to buy, walk to your closet. See all the clothes that are beautifully organized and kept in the closet. And just ask one simple question to yourself: do I really need an additional set of clothes in my closet? Is this a necessity? It's a very simple exercise. So it can be footwear. So if you feel like, I need to own this footwear, oh God, this is looking so beautiful, just go to your shoe stand, see all the pairs of shoes, sandals, whatever the footwear that you have, and just question yourself very humbly and be honest to yourself, and understand whether you really need it or not. It is a very simple exercise like that. Or, as I said, if you're getting influenced by somebody else and you want to buy the same thing, or want to have the same item at your home, it's a very simple exercise. Just question yourself. Be honest to yourself whether you really need it. You know, always a necessity should come as the first key thing when it is the matter of purchasing. So always keep it in mind that it is better to have this kind of short exercise that you will be doing, that is going to that particular place, having a look at it, and really questioning yourself genuinely whether you really require or not. It's as simple as that. When you do it, I'm sure it will work like miracle, because one is that you will get a clarity in your thoughts, and the second is you're getting that kind of gap from that zone. Because as long as you're holding the mobile, you're still, you know, so much into it. It's like, oh, all I have to do is just go to my website, my favorite shopping website, and just hit on that add to cart and just make the purchase. So at least at that time you'll give yourself that kind of time, you distract yourself from that. And what is beautiful about this exercise is that you realize that no, I don't need it. Whatever may be the outcome, that will happen, and you will be able to control that urge of getting into impulsive buying. The third step is to realize the amount that I'm setting out for the shopping expenses on a monthly basis. So I'm just giving you an example. Now, if I'm spending around 25,000 rupees per month on shopping, I need to realize that it's time for me to set a limit on this. So maybe I can bring it down to 15,000 rupees the next month. And once I know I have saved money, that will encourage me to save more. So I will set my limit for shopping expenses. Maybe I'll reduce it to 10K, 5K later. So primarily what I'm doing is I am realizing the value of saving and budgeting by way of setting limit for my shopping expenses, because it's very important that we acknowledge you know uh, the the purpose of saving money, or the purpose of budgeting. And once we are on this track of saving money, we realize that I would have just spent it otherwise so mindlessly, or getting into this impulsive buying, I would have really wasted that kind of money. So once you start understanding, and once you start literally practically saving money, you will realize the importance of saving and budgeting. So it's very important that you do this particular exercise, and that is to set the limit for your shopping expenses. Do not think of exceeding your expenses, always think of reducing it, because shopping is such a thing that if I have maybe two items of a particular product, I'll never be satisfied. I will be attracted to get the third product as well, the third quantity of the same product or brand. It will never stop. It's literally chasing a mad horse. Shopping will never stop. Our attitude or psychology for impulsive buying will never stop. But then once we start setting this kind of shopping expenses, setting the limit for the shopping expenses, we practically see that there's money on hand that I'm saving. There's so much money that I'm actually saving, which otherwise I would have just spent it. I would have just wasted it for no reason. It would have just gone. That is when we realize, once we start saving, we realize the importance of budgeting, of setting limits. So once I start saving, the next step I need to take is, what do I do with this saved money? That is when having the knowledge of finances comes into play. It's very important, no matter what's your gender, age, location, you have to have some knowledge in finances, how you can manage your finances. It becomes very important. And nowadays, it's a blessing that we have so many sources out there wherein they explain as to how you can employ your own money to earn double the money. Okay, so you are saving that kind of money, and now you have the knowledge of investing, so your own money is earning money for you in return. So it could be mutual funds, for example, or if you make further research on how to increase your wealth, then you could also get attracted towards this concept of trading. Everything involves risk. Any financial knowledge that you gain, you must be very alert. You need to understand and then go about it. So just imagine, it is such a satisfying thought that will come to your mind when you know that you're not only saving the money, but you're also trying to double the money. You are making your own money work for you and get more money out of it. That is another level, right? So all this will start only when we start setting limits for our shopping expenses. When we don't set a limit, we are just wasting it mindlessly, and we don't even realize that's a tragedy. So yes, always try and inculcate this habit of saving and budgeting. Believe me, it will help you in unimaginable ways. Like, the first and foremost thing is psychologically you are relieved. You are not under guilt that, oh, I got into the impulsive buying, into the urge of buying something which I really never required in the first place. So you'll be saved of that guilt. The second psychological satisfaction is that you are employing this money in a very good way, which will give you wonderful profits in your future. So, yes, you have to have this knowledge, and all these things will certainly bring you out of the urge of going into mindless shopping. Always remember one thing: be it habits, addictions, or weaknesses, they will just not vanish from you, overnight, or some magical thing will happen and miraculously you get out of some kind of habit or addiction. And of course, mindless shopping or impulsive buying is a kind of weakness that we, get into our own being without our knowledge sometimes. We just think that, no, it's just harmless shopping. I have so much money I can afford. It's not that I'm going out of the way, or I'm, not in my limits. You can convince, you can justify yourself with all such thoughts, but somehow it becomes your weakness, and it will put you under guilt. Because when you know that it is impulsive, obviously at the end of the day you will realize that maybe I shouldn't have bought it. So instead of getting into all such getting into all such thoughts of guilt, so it is better that we employ such steps practically in our lives and get out of that urge of impulsive buying and mindless shopping. And again, I would like to emphasize, it is not going to happen overnight. It's not like tomorrow morning we'll wake up and we'll say, oh God, yeah, let me start, and it will happen. No, it will take time. It will take a lot of self discipline and a lot of willpower. And if you are ready to work on yourself in that way, then believe me, at the end of the day, you will literally thank yourself for putting the kind of efforts that you have put on yourself in trying to get yourself out of this. Now, usually anything that is restricting you to do certain thing, restricting you from doing certain thing, it is always viewed as a bondage. In fact, self-discipline is always viewed as a bondage. And there are people who believe that, freedom is when I am able to do whatever I like. I just get some thought and I'm ready to do it, then I'm free. This is the kind of, it's a very very common psychology, that if I am able to do whatever I want, that is freedom, and if I'm restricted from doing something, that is bondage. But think about it properly. Self discipline, end of the day, will grant us freedom. Freedom from weaknesses, freedom from addiction, freedom from unnecessary thoughts. It is the self discipline, which is otherwise viewed as a bondage, grants us freedom. The addiction, weaknesses, and all, on the other hand, which promises us freedom, literally makes us their slaves. That is, when we get into such thoughts, we are merely the slaves of such things. Like, if I feel that, oh, shopping gives me that kind of happiness, shopping psychologically triggers me in a way that I get excited and I feel so alive, I feel so good. Shopping is a wonderful thing. If this is the kind of justification I'm giving myself till date, then it is high time I need to remind that this is not freedom. It is just making me its slave. So please understand the difference between the free will that we have got to exercise and the self discipline that we can employ in our lives to set us free. It is very important that we make a distinction between the two. And I hope you liked today's content. And as I said, when I sat for the content writing, it was more like mind journaling for me, because I was literally going through this thing that, although I know the importance of saving and budgeting, why is it that I get into impulsive buying? Always I used to question myself, and I always used to feel that yes, I need to work on myself. And through this content, and by putting efforts in understanding the psychology, and also trying to explore the ways in which I can control my urges of mindless shopping, I can happily say that yes, there is certain clarity in my thoughts now. And I hope the same clarity you have got after watching my content. If so, please share your feedback in the comments below, because I would be highly, I would be really delighted to read all your comments and reply. So yeah, feel free to comment. And if you like this channel, and if you like such kind of contents, then please consider to subscribe to my channel if you're new here. That's all for today's content. And always take care of yourself, and believe in the concept of saving and budgeting. It helps in a long way. And that's all for today. Happy homemaking, and take care of yourselves. Bye.